Woohoo! There we go. We're live, and welcome to Pepper's Echo. My name is Andre, and I have a very good friend, very intellectually educated layman and man in the street, Nelius. Welcome.
How are you doing this evening, Mr. Pepper?
Always good, my friend. Always good. Okay, yeah, just to give everybody.
Always love to hear those two in the same sentence: educated and layman. Love that.
Lazyman? No, layman. No. What we're looking at, and this is the first Pepper's Echo properly on its live spot. So, looking at bringing you a live show every Sunday at 2 o'clock South African time. 2 p.m. that is, and Cambodian time 7 p.m. And hopefully Nelius will be joining us as well. If you take a look at the name, we've called it the NA chat, non-applicable, but it's actually for Nelius and Andre. It's not non-applicable. But if anyone can actually think of a good name for our show, or if we come up with a good name or whatever, it would be really great. Please drop us a mail. I do have a email address, pepperzecco@gmail.com. 1P, no E at the end, RS. And yeah, drop us any ideas and any names that you would have. Basically, what we are going to do is probably touch on a couple of sensitive subjects. Sometimes we are not really looking at insulting or kicking anyone unless we need to, bunch of savages anyway. And there's many things that we want to look at. We'll be looking at one this evening and basically just having a general chat. We're not the highly educated, grand, I should say, researchers. We leave that to the guys like, and I'll link them in the comments below, Ronaldo Ghost, Roman Cabernac, Morning Shot, Chris Wyatt, African Indaba, Germ from Germ Warfare, Battle of Ideas. Those are the guys, the statistics, the facts, and the proof, and all that wonderful stuff. So basically, if you want to put what we're looking at to the test, go through there. But right now, what we do is, and hopefully we would get to having you join us on the live social if you're watching this as a replay. Remember, when we're on Sundays at 2 o'clock in South Africa, 7 o'clock Cambodia, and find out your time if you're from another country. But let's get the ball rolling. And we also have one more dedicated man, Divan. Yes, yes. I hope it's all going to be yes for you and not no. How's it, Divan? Yeah, so hopefully we can get the ball rolling and just having a fantastic chat. But if you guys, the more people that come on, the more the chat can come to a better discussion and points. We're open to change. We're open-minded. We're not, how should I say, we're not solidly set in our ways. But so we're open. We challenge everyone to change our thoughts, change our pattern, and it's not an opinion we're shoving down on you. It's an assumption, presumption, non-fact checked, man in the street. What we see from what's happening around us that we're talking about, and we're open to change through and through. I don't know, we're looking at things like we'd like to discuss BLM, gun ownership. I know Paratus is really good at that. The old South African flag, national anthem, people longing for pre-94, why? The death penalty in South Africa, SA citizens, tourist prices, farm murders, retail customers, attitudes, and black versus white. Racism, class, color, or culture, street and city name changes. I believe they're wanting to change William Nicol to Winnie Mandela Drive. But anyway, not going to violently start off this evening.
How many boxes of matches do you think it's going to take to make name changes, buddy?
No matches, just one stompy.
You will liberate the country, though.
No matches, just one stompy.
Exactly. Yeah.
SA's lockdown.
for our international viewers, there's absolutely no nuance in that joke whatsoever. Just as a disclaimer, anybody tries
Well, this is what this is all about. This is a little bit of chats, and if you're sharp enough, you can ride the wave with us. If not, just go, yeah, well, no, fine. Yeah, so we look at the SA population, rights of prisoners and voting, and should we vote, statues and history, and quotas in sport, rugby and cricket. We're obviously not going to be discussing that all. As you know from the preview on this, we're discussing today a problem in South Africa that we want to chat about. And I know, Nelius, you and I touched on so much last Saturday, and this is where this idea was born from, and said, hey, you know what, let's take a chat online, because this is what Pepper Zeka is all about, is the everyday man in the street, you and I, and people like you and I who associate with us, that look at these things and go, oh, this is what I understand from you. We've got a lady, there we go, Linda van Rooyen, they want to change East London to, ek gaan jou vloek as ek daai woord sê.
Kugompo. Wenzani manje? Kugompo, wenzani? What are you doing?
Hey kids, I don't know what the bloody hell these people are doing.
And what we also talked about it was Sunday with breakfast in Siem Reap of all places in Cambodia. It was pouring down that morning.
Trying to smoke under an umbrella.
It was a lovely time, and we had a fantastic chat.
Oh, super.
Lost time there for a moment. But it's what Linda brought up right now is actually a very important thing. As we touched on that, is I don't think the South African public actually realizes how much it costs to change names like these. It's become scary how we've become numb as South Africans to, we're just changing some of the biggest names of some of the biggest infrastructure in the country. This has been happening for so many years that we've become so numb to what the effects of that actually is. And you had the figures on this, how much it actually costs to change the names. And then you weigh that up against what else could that money be used to invest in infrastructure and social development. But no, the name changes are the most important, Andre.
That is sadly the biggest bunch of bullshit that I've ever heard in my life, I'm sorry to say. But I unfortunately have the bookmark on my laptop. If I'm not mistaken, and I stand corrected, Pretoria name changes and street changes and goodness knows what, I reached around about the 800 million mark.
There was Moordier.
And you know what? We're sitting on how much percentage unemployment? We're sitting with how many hungry families? How many hungry children?
It's over 50%. Yeah, it's over 50%, and it's scandalous. It's scandalous that they still want to go ahead with things like this in today's day and age with everything that's going on. I mean, this is also why I really think the platform that you invited me onto is really important, because I'm not a political analyst. I do, however, follow politics really closely, and not only South Africa, is right across the world. I mean, when you start living abroad, you start following these things. It's interesting. As someone who does come from a financial and economical background, I find that you'll find so much information on everybody's facts online when it comes to politics. But when it comes to South African politics, yes, we have our analysts, we have the big names that you have mentioned earlier. But there does seem to be a very, very big gap in what we hear in the media, what we see on Facebook, what we see on YouTube, versus what we as South Africans would discuss around a braai. What we would find, important issues for our futures, for where we're going. These are the topics that we're not hearing about this at all, what our opinions are. So I'd like to say that it's not necessarily an educated opinion piece, but it might be a very informed piece. Instead of saying we're analysts, I'd like to say we bring very, very good information to the table, and I think this chat is very necessary. Yeah, it's important, man.
I see there, Linda's. You're right. They should rather use the money to clean up the city so that people would want to visit. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it is such a beautiful place. What's it? East London's a stunning place, by the way. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
But I agree with what you're saying. You know what? It's like, you know what? Because life has become so digital. This is basically our digital bride. Maybe we can call it Kom Braai Saam, something like that. Just watch that Barry Hilton doesn't have a postmark and Kom Braai Saam or something like that. But that's what it is, and I think our chat last weekend, you know, just made it so interesting, because I think we had a good on-filling. What's the English word? Complimenting, which sort of spurred a lot of questions. Your background, your knowledge, my background, my knowledge, very vastly different, and so. And well, street name changes, and that I'm actually wanting to make, and I was wanting to make it beforehand already, and that's why I do have the material. I wanted to make a content video on it, and I will do it, because talking about East London, there's a whole couple of places in the Eastern Cape that they are wanting to change names, and it's absolutely ridiculous. But I think we'll run that one when I've actually got the content on it, and that as well. Because what I'm looking at today, and what the main thing we wanted to look at today is, what is the problem in South Africa? There is so much. Cheers.
Which one? But there are quite a few.
There's a lot of problems, but what are we looking at? There's a lot of people. Is it color? Because racism. I mean, our president came up, was it yesterday or just the day before yesterday, once again saying racism has not been conquered. They haven't, should I say, reached the point of completing or conquering racism in South Africa. And you know what? I fail to believe that. I think it has been kept alive more than what it has been attempted to be conquered. But are we looking at it as, is it a race issue, color issue? Is it a class issue? And I know we'll define classes, because we were actually talking about this the other day. And class isn't just by wealth or knowledge. Or is it a culture issue? Does it come from your culture? Are we having cultures clashing? Are we having colors clashing? Or are we actually having class clashes as such? I just actually want to go to Twitter, because I do have some things there.
Look, Andre, there's definitely a debate to be made, you know, for the cultural differences aspect. But at this point in time, in my honest opinion, I don't think that is the biggest issue that South Africa is facing right now. And I'd go as far as to say that a lot of the rest of the world, with regard to race relations, is facing right now. I think the issue we're facing right now is not so much about race as it is about you know, which political party can use race as a whipping stick to get a group riled up to actually accomplish their political agenda. I honestly don't think that any politician sits there in his bedroom, in his lavish mansion, thinking and concocting of a way, you know, to literally go kill other people. I don't think that's the primary objective. I do, however, think that using race and using South Africa's sensitivity towards race makes it a very, very vulnerable spot for our culture to move forward when it comes to big decisions in politics, in infrastructure, and where our country is heading in the future. Because just as the United States, South Africa is also standing on a tipping point right now. And I think many South Africans are very, very curious to actually find out where it's going. And I think this is a very good platform to discuss what we actually think. Because at the end of the day, I caught myself thinking, you know, I literally moved out to the jungle in the middle of Cambodia, you know, into the rainforest kind of thing. But even so, you know, my heart will always beat as a true South African. You know, I'm African like that. And I think so many South Africans, white, black, Indian, colored, my friend, if you go take a look at the rhetoric on Facebook right now, everybody's getting fucking sick of it. I'm sorry, everybody's getting sick of this whole race thing being whipped around. I mean, it's stuff like the whole clicks debacle. You can't even make stuff like that up. So no, I don't think that race or culture is what's standing in the way of South Africa as a unified country and South Africans as we believed we could be in '94. I don't think that's what's standing in our way. What's standing in our way is the ANC, it's the EFF, it's putting people into certain boxes and telling them if that person is not in your box, yeah, then you're wrong. Then you're idealistically and morally corrupt, and you need to be killed. And you actually an oxygen thief. I think if many South Africans can get into that state of mind, a lot of our problems would be solved to start off with.
I have Linda saying the president and his racist triple E legislation is keeping it alive. Exactly what you're saying. Yes, Linda, that's true. Exactly what Nelius is saying. I don't think it's a race issue as much as what it is the people who benefit from it keeping the issue alive. And the reason I say that, and I agree with you, race doesn't fall part of it, because you find that the everyday person that you interact with, just and I like to think I'm middle class if I have to class people in where we live or whatever type of thing. I'm maybe lower middle class, but I haven't resorted to flooking my neighbors yet. But I was able, I had a car, I had a little place to stay, I had a job, and I could put food on the table, etc. And I would go to a driving range, and there's this black guy there with his two little kids, and he would rock up in his little, I think it was a Golf or a Jetta or something like that, no fancy car, whatever, in his like shorts and his golf shirt or whatever. He had his two little kids who came to watch Daddy hit a few balls at the driving range. And we always used to greet each other amicably, and I used to like, no, with the little kid, how's it going? Dude, you're going to golf one day for Daddy? Yeah, we'd smile, laugh, and we'd carry on our business. And I think most South Africans and then I'm going to give you a class, and I'm going to have to clear this up very, very quickly before somebody shoots me for class, is most South Africans feel that way. We are sick and tired and just want to get on with life. And we just want to go along. And yes, it is the people that benefit from, like the ANC, like the EFF. If they don't have a racism issue, they don't benefit. I once put to you, and I'll say it again, even though the forest was being diminished, the trees still voted for the axe because its handle was made of wood.
Andre, I think you're getting really close to the core when saying that. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd go as far as to say that South Africa does not have a race problem as much as a communism problem. I think it was Ronaldo Gous who summed it up really well when he said that if you actually get your mind to a paradigm shift where you can imagine that there's absolutely no racism in South Africa, right? Everybody gets along. We work towards a better economy. It's very idealistic to say, but if that were the case, the EFF and the ANC wouldn't really have any place to exist. They wouldn't have any place in the media. They wouldn't have as much influence as they do on people's emotions. So at the end of the day, if we try and focus on being better South Africans at the end of the day, and not see race as we always used to. I'm never one of those people who would say I don't see color. Obviously, I think it's necessary to see color. It's an important part of getting along. But if you can bring that to balance and realize that, listen, this person standing right next to me earns pretty much what I earn. This person drives the same road I drive every single day. This person uses the same infrastructure I do. This person has the same news outlets I do. This person had the same opportunities that I had. I'm speaking look, I was born in 1991. I'm pretty much a born free. I don't think being 4 years old makes me a Nazi in the apartheid regime, as I have been called before. But it's about choosing power, and they're trying to use emotion to keep themselves in power.
Definitely. It's, you know what, I think you've nailed it there. It's emotion that keeps them in power. Hence the reason they need to work up that emotion in. I look bald with this. This is, I'm looking at and then you went, I'm born in 91, I'm a born free. And I'm thinking to myself, ooh, 71, this looks really bad. I'm a Nazi. I really got to stop doing no, I'm kidding. I'm joking. But let's get back to what you were saying. Yeah. agreed. It is an emotional thing. I think you've nailed it there. And I just feel that it is in the ANC's best interest to keep people, the majority, poor and uneducated. Because if they don't keep their people poor and uneducated, the trees won't vote for the axe anymore, because they'll see more than the handle made of wood. And I agree, it's not a color thing, because here's the question. When somebody says, and I've heard many of them go, oh, prepare for civil war. We're preparing for civil war. We're stocking up on bullets. And you know what? I'm not saying there's not going to be a war anywhere along the line. I mean, I'm not an analyst. You and I both agreed. But what I'm saying is, I'm asking this question. If you are going to have a civil war, who are we going to fight? Who's going to fight? It's not a black and white war. We've already established that. There's a lot of black people and a lot of white people and a lot of Indian people and a lot of colored people that feel exactly the same way. So who are we going to fight? It's not going to be a black and white war. The Xhosas don't sit together with the Zulus so well. So they don't smoke each other either. So whose side are they going to take?
You see, this is where Chris White has got very, very good insights on things like this too. I mean, if you take a look at Africa, how Africa is, our demographic, you know, it's a complete mixing pot of different cultures, different tribes, from different places across the continent. Wars in Africa never ever happen like they do in the rest of the world. If you take a look back at the 80s, 90s, when the ANC, well, that time the South African Communist Party, was still in the early stages of waging its People's War in South Africa. Obviously, it had the name, the South African Communist Party, with communist agendas based on that. That's how wars go in Africa. It's not like people might think. I hear a lot of South Africans saying that we might be heading down on a civil war. But that's an important question to ask, my friend. Have you seen what history has showed us what wars in South Africa looks like? It's nowhere as neat as the newer generation might think of what they have seen from footage in Iraq, with all of their neat infrastructure and a well sorted out military. Everybody has their ranks, their battalions, everything is. It does not happen like that in Africa, my friend. I would suggest anybody go watch and pay really close attention to that documentary on YouTube, which is called Tainted Heroes. Tainted Heroes.
I remember that. It's called Tainted Heroes.
Tainted Heroes, Andre. It was produced by AfriForum, I think 3 or 4 years ago. It's about 2 hours. It is incredibly graphic, and it's really, really hard to sit through. However, I think it's incredibly important that all South Africans sit through that, watch it, and gain perspective of where South Africa has come from. Because the narrative that's been constructed today most definitely does not meet what history has showed us. It's very important that we are well aware of what history is actually like, to realize where we are today and where we are heading in the future. And this documentary clearly depicts what wars in South Africa could look like. But another point on that, and people are probably going to hate me for saying this, especially women. I'm not sexist, but there used to be a Snickers advert a couple of years ago, where this lady, she got incredibly hungry and annoyed, and the moment she has a Snickers, it seems like her problems go away. And this is sort of the analogy that I want to use for a lot of South Africans, especially white South Africans, who say, yeah, we're going for a civil war. We're going to be whites against blacks. Ek staan by my nasie. Ek het my geweer gelaai. I sometimes want to ask them, brother, do you not want to just have a proverbial Snickers? Get rid of the thorn in the side that's actually really creating the problem, which is the ANC, which is the EFF. Get rid of that problem, and I can almost guarantee you're going to see things go in the right direction from there, without blowing up our beautiful, beautiful infrastructure, our cities. I mean, the springtime just passed. Did you see what Pretoria looked like the spring with the jacarandas? It's incredibly beautiful. I can't see that, being laid to waste in a civil war. That's not what we should focus on. We should focus on what the thorn in the side really is.
Namaqualand's been the best it's ever been for a long time as well. Did you see those photos?
I would actually like to give a shout out to that page on Facebook. Ek reis deur my pragtige land Suid-Afrika. It's a photography page, and I saw all of the pictures they posted about Namaqualand. Ek reis deur my pragtige land Suid-Afrika. It's man, everybody who is a traveler in South Africa posts pictures on there as they travel. It's amazing to see what South Africa looks like through the lens of South African travelers, as we have spoken about that last Sunday at breakfast too.
Is that a web page or a Facebook page?
It's a Facebook group. Let me see if I can't find it. I can send you a link.
If you've got it, yeah, send it. I'm just putting down the names for people to actually.
Oh man!
There we go.
Look, I'm not saying that this is not a good page for any South African who does not live in South Africa who is homesick. I can almost guarantee you're going to cry for some of these pictures. But yeah, I've got it. Let me quickly share it with you.
Yeah, I did mess up on spelling. I think I'm okay there now. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, send it the link.
Where did you send it?
Sent it on Facebook. It might take a while. I see my internet is lagging. I think my stream is taking most of the bandwidth.
Okay, no. As soon as it comes through, I shall post it. But yeah, so sadly, I have to agree with you. I'm afraid of war in South Africa because I agree with you. It will be a shit show. It's not going to be a neatly devised war because it'll be guerrilla warfare type of thing, but it's going to be a very, very unplanned. It'll be a dog-eat-dog type of thing because it won't be a black and white.
It's not going to be a well-orchestrated anything.
I think in our humble laymanship or average opinions, I think we can very much rule out color. Oops, I'm missing people's comments in the process. Sorry, Linda, I forgot there. Steve Hoffman said people who lived through the war are not the ones calling. Yeah, people who lived through the war are not the ones calling. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
You know what, Linda? Something else is that the people who lived for apartheid are not calling for reverse racism at the moment either. It's the youngsters, the born frees, and the people who are being affected by. I mean, Julius Malema, I don't think he lived. I think he lived 2 years before 94. Isn't he born in 91 or something like that as well?
If I'm not mistaken, but he carries on as if he's been carrying the flag of the struggle for almost 100 years.
It's like he's been martyred. Yeah. Okay, I've got your copy link address. I just want to put this address down here as well.
Yeah, feel free to share it, man. I absolutely love that group. It really depicts our country for how beautiful it actually is.
What I will do is I will put it in the sorry, radio silence. I will put it in the comments down there as well. So that's just a link, but this is the Facebook group, and I will put the link to that downstairs as well. And I'll see if I can actually find the documentary Tainted Heroes on YouTube as well, and put the link down there as well. Everything that we talk about that we can link to, I will do so.
You wouldn't be able to share the link on that. It's incredibly censored. I tried to share the link so many times. VPN, no VPN. It's you wouldn't be able to. It's of a very, very graphic nature. I can warn anybody who is going to watch it. It literally shows the footage of how people used to get necklaced back in the day.
It was a bad one, yeah.
It shows things like this. So it's not really a link that you're going to be able to share, but I urge any South African who has not seen that before to go actually, especially the younger generations, go take a look what really happened. Go take a look what really happened on the streets.
But
is this what you want? This is not how anything is going to be settled. Well, to make the contrary argument even worse, Andre, if you take a look at why they went to war so badly and why they've made so much chaos in the country, it's to get around the negotiation table. Now, I ask you, if they start overthrowing South Africa and starting a civil war in this country and, completely screw up our infrastructure as it is, who is going to come to the negotiation table for us? Who is going to stand there and negotiate, and who's going to be able to negotiate with these terrorists? Is this something that you really want? What are you willing as a South African to concede around the negotiation table? If you take a look at the liberties we currently have, remember, if war strikes, you are going to make sacrifices, both in life and liberty. So that's a point I think every South African should consider before saying, let's just get this whole race war thing done and over with. Let's have a war, and everybody can be happy from there. This is not a high school fight, an fietsloot. When as kids, when you used to beat the crap out of each other and pick each other up, go have a beer and your best friends. It's not like that. This is a grown-up world.
The thing is, you're going to have to pick a side. It's not like voting. Ooh, my vote doesn't count, so I'm not going to vote. You will become a part of it, whether you like it or not. Yeah. And you are going to have to pick a side. And as you said, I don't think there's a pretty side to pick from. And who is going to speak on your behalf? You can't then say, well, you know what, no one's talking for me because I refuse to vote. I don't agree with anybody. You're suddenly forced to actually compromise your integrity, your principles, your beliefs, all of
exactly.
that.
What are you willing to concede? Yeah.
And that's what you were saying. What are you willing to give up? Integrity, principles, intentions, your beliefs, your caring? No, I don't know. I don't think there will be a war, but I do believe that the unrest is getting a little bit to an unacceptable level. And
most definitely.
The ANC needs to be removed.
Most definitely, Andre. I think one of the reasons for chaos ensuing so much lately is partly also because of the coronavirus lockdown. The absolutely stupid decisions made in Parliament with regard to our lockdown regulations. I think the latest figures, I think there are more than 3 million jobs lost since the lockdown started. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have those statistics at hand. However, right. Even if it's anywhere close to that, 3 million jobs lost, my friend. That's something crazy, especially if you know what it's like to live in South Africa pre-coronavirus too. One of the biggest causes of crime in South Africa is also not race. It's poverty. It's people who are very, very desperate and impoverished. I refuse to accept the premise that anybody would tell me, yes, any person who is black, steals and this is part of their culture. It's got nothing to do with their culture. You can't just place people in boxes like that. You need to actually ask the question, why are these people doing what they are doing? What are they trying to achieve? I don't think at all that the average rioter in the streets at this point in time has the image in his head that is going to conquer South Africa and be the king of South Africa and enjoy all of its riches and spoils. That's not what they're writing for. That's not what people have been writing for in South Africa for years now. What people are writing for is they want a safe country. They want jobs. They want a working economy, a working symbiotic relationship between races, between religions, between governments, and that just, quite frankly, cannot exist. With politicians we have are currently in power, they're not focused on helping South Africa or their people or the country at all. All they care about is the money in their pockets, and that's unfortunately just how it is. There's no big or massive conspiracy theory. There's no white versus black. That's where it is. Follow the money, my friend.
I agree with you there. I don't believe all rioting is for that reason, because I do believe Clicks was thrown apart not for filling their stomachs and things like that. And I don't believe that the Fairview bunch of savages running through the racehorses with pangas and things like that had anything to do with filling their stomachs. But I do believe that most of it, so I agree with you there that I don't think culture has anything to do with it. I could bring in another C probably and say circumstance has to do with it. Because I have seen, and my mind has been changed, because I also looked the one day and I was looking at these guys in a township or rural area township or whatever, and they were burning tires and throwing things around, and they were really throwing a tantrum. And I'm looking at them and going, little bastards, little bastards. Sorry, I just want to actually acknowledge Devon's post there. Julius Malema, born 3 March 1981. Okay, he had more than what I actually thought he did.
81 is 10 years. He's 10 years older than I am.
Yeah, so yeah, he's 10 years younger than me.
Yeah, but Andre, I mean, you know, if you take a look at any form of violence, any form of unrest in South Africa, if you see the name EFF associated to anything related towards that act of violence, you know it's not out of desperation, circumstance, anything. That's a completely different story. Those are the communists we need to fight. Those are the kinds of people we desperately need to get out of our society in South Africa. I don't think South Africans realize what a big danger this is actually staring them in the face.
Definitely. Devon's just actually confirmed your statistics. He seems to be looking it up for us. Lockdown cost 3 million jobs, caused widespread hunger, 16 July 2020. Wow. And that's on top of a 30% unemployment rate before COVID started, by the way. Linda says, I read somewhere that more people will die of hunger because of lockdown than died of COVID-19. Linda, that's the truth. I don't believe in half this COVID bullshit. It is, sorry, it is almost something for us to discuss by ourselves as well. Not by ourselves, but I mean on another program as well. I think you and I are going to have a lot of fun on Sunday nights. I just, you know what, because I'm really enjoying this, and I'm like watching the time, and I'm thinking, shit, I can't believe this is going. We have so much to go still. Another beer, guys. No, I'm kidding, but I'm having so much fun, and I can't believe this, and it's like just going away. You know, I don't believe that COVID is what it was. I do believe it's some other kind of testing. I don't not believe that there's a virus. I just don't believe that the virus has required the, I should have said that the processes that have been put in place. It's totally communistic and controllable on that. But what I was trying to get back to as well is on that rural area where they were actually throwing a tantrum and everything. They were protesting because of services. And I'm like, oh, you bunch of little shits. What the hell do you think you're doing? You know what? Why you don't know where you're coming from. You got no manners, whatever. And then somebody, I can't remember where along the line, said to me, and this was quite a while ago, he said, you know what? You must understand that these people have gone years and years and years, and then they were promised again, and they've still gone years and years and years, also under false pretense and promise again, for rubbish removal, for water, for sanitization, toilets, all of this that they're supposed to be getting in this electricity, that they're supposed to be getting in this like settlement. And it's, when I say rural settlement, I don't mean on some farmer's farm. I mean, it's a location. It used to maybe be a majorly a poorish black settlement on the outskirts of town or somewhere like that. But they're getting nothing. These people are living, and I'm sorry for the word again, but they're living in literal shit running down their roads. Their children are playing on dirt heaps of rubbish because it's not being collected. Doesn't matter where you collect it, where you put it down, it's not being collected. There are no services being planned. How long do you float in crap before you put your foot down and say, you know what, this is it? And how else do they get attention? Because they don't have anyone to put in a suit to send to government, to send to council, to send to everything and fight their plea for them. There's no lawyer that looks at them or is caring about them. So they do what best they know. And exactly what you said, they react on circumstance. It's not their culture. It's not their color. It is purely their circumstance.
This is very true, Andre, and I find myself wondering often, um, when do you think South Africa has reached the point in our service delivery where we've completely lost compassion and would rather judge others for how they protest versus actually be compassionate and put ourselves in their shoes and just try and understand why they are doing what they are doing. I might sound like I'm making a very liberal or left-leaning argument when I say that, but I quite frankly don't give a shit if you think if I'm left or right. It's what I see as logic at the end of the day. To give you an example, I was still living in Pretoria during 2018. I think this was 2017, early 2018, when we went through all of those water crises. We sat without water for weeks on end, but I was fortunate enough to have a pool at the place I was staying. You can obviously imagine why, but as someone who was working in the financial industry as a director at that point in time, we needed to wear a pressed suit and tie to work every single day to make a living. It gets really fucking frustrating without water, man. You can't do anything. And after about a week and a half, we were all so frustrated that we considered shitting on the mayor's desk. And this is leaving it in a beautiful little brown packet and setting it on fire. You know what I'm saying? But this is only after a week and a half. In all seriousness, sitting without water. Can you imagine living 28, 29 years with no running water, no sanitation facilities, no nothing? Um, it makes you think twice before judging people who write about service delivery. To be honest, the thought did cross my mind of just burning a tire in the middle of a street in Waterkloof, Pretoria. So it does bring the arguments of compassion into the picture, which I don't feel is always being done.
One, you just loot a Tops bottle store while you're about it. You can drown your sorrows as well, hey?
Yeah, just make sure you picked up
Sorry,
everything for the
I'm just,
guy
you know
beforehand.
what, you were making the left sound, so compassionate. I had to just go right a bit there with you.
Oh
No,
no, no, no, no, that was most
no,
definitely not my intent.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, but let's take a look at why. These guys were told that it is an old regime, and by no means am I condoning an apartheid government, by the way.
Yeah.
But these guys are told it's an old regime, the reason why you are like you are, or the circumstance that you are in. Now you are our people, whoever our people is, because we're supposed to be one in South Africa. But now we will look after our people. But the people looking after our people are not looking after our people. And I revert back again to the beginning of this conversation, where we are spending money on name changes and crap, absolute bullshit, where we need, and I can get worked up about where there's dire need. And so once again, why are these people who cannot afford a lawyer, who do not have the maybe the knowledge or the ability to walk someone in a suit into government or into the councillor's office or whatever, who find that their only way is doing these prehistoric stunts, which piss everybody off, because what happens is inevitably they are wreaking more havoc, not only having a proper protest, but they start damaging private property, pillaging, things to that effect. Everything goes south in the process as well, which then becomes criminal, which the bloody Chele boys, the cops, do absolutely shit all about. This has such a rolling effect, a criminal effect. Yeah, and it is, and I'm going to lay it on the table. It is the fault of the ANC. It's not a cultural matter. It's not a color matter. What was the other one that I said? Color, culture, or class? It's not a class matter. It's the matter of circumstance that the ANC has dumped these people into, and they are not prioritizing correctly or working. They have no plan whatsoever to take these people out of poverty. Questions the fact is, do they have intention of taking these people out of poverty? Because should they do so or uplift these people, would the ANC still be in power today?
Why would they? I mean, Andre, they've had almost 30 years to prove themselves. With the country, I mean, take a look at what the rand dollar exchange rate was back in '91 when I was born. You know, they didn't receive a weak piss boy average African economy. They received a super force when it comes to African economies. They really received a well-oiled machine. They've had 30 years to prove themselves. Why are we still asking questions like, do they really care about poverty? Do they really care about me? You know, we've become so conditioned to see everything happening in South Africa as isolated incidents, but everything forms part of a bigger problem, which always points down to the ANC. They've almost had 30 years, man. How much more time do we want to give them? It pisses me off to talk about these things, not because I'm a racist, not because I'm white, not because I'm right or left leaning. It pisses me off purely because of the fact that I'm sitting in Cambodia right now to make a decent living for myself because I am not afforded the opportunity in my own country to do so. You know, I am fortunate enough to be able to do what I'm doing, but I know a lot of friends and family back home who can't, who still need to rely on that economy, who still needs to rely on good leadership, of which there is, excuse Andre, focal nothing.
Exactly.
I think a lot of political analysts are picking up on that too. Is that there's a massive lack in leadership, and the moment somebody with good leadership skills walks in and tries to address anything, you know how the South African mafia is. It's going to take something really big to break this chain, man. I don't know where we'd start with something like this, but I don't hear anybody actually discussing the fact that this is not necessarily about race, creed, culture, religion, or anything like that. This is the fact that we collectively have a problem with our own government.
Nobody's putting up their hand. The government shouldn't be there. They should have been out a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
They're absolutely a bunch of terrorists, a bunch of thieves, a bunch of corrupt shitheads. Sorry. Yeah. But that is what they are, for lack of a decent word. And I'm really trying to be a decent man at the moment. But they shouldn't be there. They are doing no good. Even if they didn't start with a strong economy, the peg that they put in the ground when they took over should have shown at least development or an increase. They have only shown decrease from the peg that was put in the ground from when they took over. So whether it was a low peg or a high peg, irrespective, the line should have gone up from that peg. But no line has gone up at all. It's just gone down consistently, which brings me to the point of...
That's what we all wanted. That's what we all wanted, Andre. I mean, go ask any South African citizen, white or black, and black especially, if you take color out of the picture, would you vote for a government who is going to guarantee you a very, very sharp decline in your economy? I can almost guarantee you any logical person would say, no, race has nothing to do with that at the end of the day. That's what we all voted for in '94. Well, I didn't vote, I was too young, but that's what the idea was, is to be progressive, is to go forward, it's to grow, it's to develop, it's to become this idealistic rainbow nation that they said. I hate that word, but I do believe in the strength and unity of South Africans. This is what we need to highlight too.
There's a problem as well. Exactly what Linda's saying. I agree with you. At 55 years old, who wants you? It was hard enough. Divan, sorry, I have to give his little annotation there.
Actually, what you do, Divan. Actually, what you do.
But just getting back to Linda's statement there, at 55, no country wants you. No country for old men or old people. I had a bad enough time at age 47, when we moved to Cambodia. Also, same reason as you. I have a country that didn't want me, chewed me up and spat me out and couldn't think any more of it. And I would have loved to go to New Zealand. Do you know that the rings and the hoops and the amount of money I had to pay out, still not to be able to get there? Australia is even tighter. The UK and the US, anywhere in Europe, is just like an absolute no, apart from the cost of living over there. One of the saving graces of Cambodia is the cost of living. I think we spoke about it on Saturday as well. But I actually, once or twice during the week, actually had an idea, and I thought, now what if I decided to go and make a go? Because as we said, you know, it doesn't matter where you are, whatever. South Africa is that beautiful country that you left behind, that country that your heart really belongs in. Except for the shit show it is right now, the rest is absolutely stunning. What if I was able to make it back? Maybe I could land a job, okay? Maybe I could land a job. Let's, for argument's sake, say I do land a job. Now, it won't be an administrative or office job or anything to that effect. The job's not going to be greatly paying, but it is going to be phenomenal hours for a low-paying job and probably not treated very well because of who and what I am. Although at age 48, I sincerely doubt I'm going to get a job or anything decent or anything that actually respects me as such. So basically, I will go back to South Africa. Maybe I will get a one-bedroom unfurnished flat for 6,500 rand a month. I don't know if I'm being
depends on where you're talking about, man. I don't even think in some of the lower middle class places in Pretoria you'd be able to get a decent bachelor's apartment for that rent. Probably in the lower class areas, and you're already talking about 6,500 rand, man. It's a lot of money.
I'm talking about being able to find somewhere in a reasonably safe area because, yeah, I'm sure you can get much if you go to Hillbrow and you find something there, probably get stabbed on the way to work and actually save you all the suffering. But if I get that, then you've got to get a car. Then you've got to pay for fuel. Then your food costing.
You got to pay insurance on that car. You got to pay insurance on that car too.
What about medical expenses? And if you don't have medical expenses, you'll probably die in hospital from some virus that you picked up in hospital. But the whole thing is,
probably,
I live in Cambodia. I will survive in South Africa. I understand people that don't want to leave South Africa because of children. They've got a house, they've got to work, and they've got to live in circumstances. Yeah. And I agree. You know what? If I had heavier responsibilities, I would probably have thought twice. And it's probably what made me think twice. I had kids and everything and all that type of stuff. It's probably what made me think twice about just upping and moving. And when my mom moved off out of the house, Ina and I, to an old age home, we said, that's it. And we were actually, got to go to New Zealand type of thing. And then a business opportunity came up and everything. But still, no country, I agree. Linda, you nailed it there. You are kind of got a catch-22 because they don't want you in South Africa. But the world, as much as what they put sanctions on you for in apartheid times, they are turning a blind eye to the current times in South Africa where you just don't have a hope in hell unless you have a decent nest egg, which you might have built from your apartheid times if you were old enough to do that. And then you've got a real cock attitude these days, mostly. I'm kidding, but we'll talk about South African consumers another day. But the majority of your middle class are not living, they're surviving. A lot of them are just surviving.
I'm telling you, it's from a younger person, sorry to interrupt you there, from a younger person's perspective, it's not pretty either. I mean, I can completely see what it must be like. As a 55-year-old, your own country doesn't want you. I can tell you, as somebody who was born in '91, Andre, it's almost impossible to properly make a good living, climb the first steps of the ladder, the second, the third, the fourth of the corporate ladder in South Africa. It's almost impossible to get ahead as a young professional if you are male and white. There are exceptions to be made, but it's almost impossible from that perspective too So what is the common denominator? Is it how old we are, or is it the fact that our country just doesn't seem to give a rat's ass about us as skilled people who are leaving the country in droves?
That's where I want to throw the class factor in. So we've eliminated the fact that it's not color that is actually affecting the country, although it is a color propaganda created by those
It's a
in
propaganda
power
war,
or
most definitely.
in position that actually propagate that. We've established that basically it's not color because not culture, because it is, everyone has their own culture, but the culture does, no culture dictates separation of people. But let's take a look at class. Now, I'm not talking about, as I said previously, I'm not talking about wealth class. I'm really not talking about intelligence class either. I'm talking about, and you mentioned something just now, paradigm class, the way you think of things, because you can get rich people in a low class and you get poor people in a high class. You can get intelligent people in a low class and you get intelligent people in a high class, vice versa, or not so intelligent. I don't want to say dumb people because I'm talking about ice cream children now, but and it's based on the class of how wide is your peripheral vision, how wide is your thinking. You can get really dumbasses, and on both sides, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Avia, but you got these guys that think wit and swart and black and white is the way to go, and I don't mix at all, and this is how we've got to work going forward. And then you get the freaking other side, the left side of the ANC and the EFF, and what's that? Black Land First, who's been disbanded,
Black
even
First,
they so
Black
bad.
First, Land
Black
First,
Land First, yeah. All of those other wallies who are going racism, apartheid still chaining you down, the whites are killing you the most. Basically, what they are teaching these people, and this is why I say it's important that they keep these people uneducated, because the more they keep them uneducated, the more they can sell them the shit. And unfortunately, in the white sector, rich and poor, you have a class. And this is why I'm saying it is a paradigm class, not a wealth class, not a knowledge class, a paradigm class, who can't think straight.
Oh, most definitely.
And they've got this alles en ek for me.
I mean, look, I know a lot of white people, and especially Afrikaners, don't like me making this argument. But if you take a look at the common denominator between all of these extremist predispositions is it's stupidity. It's stupidity. Any extremist, the typical RVB bloke, right? You don't know him as a very intellectual man. You know, he grew up with brandy and rugby. He didn't really finish school. That's what he believes in. If you take a look at the far left, which I believe is much more dangerous and prominent in South Africa at this point in time. They have these extremist beliefs because it's easy to believe in an extreme belief. It's not so easy to believe in more nuanced subjects. When you take a look at the bigger details to actually supply the bigger economy, as it's supposed to go. It's stupidity is rife among these extremist groups, and that's why I don't think intelligent people really take them too seriously until they start rioting and throwing bombs and stuff like that. But hey, man, in South Africa we have them all, right?
This is the problem. I agree with you 100%. And you know what? You're talking about that RVB guy. He's not necessarily stupid. He's just, that's me. You know,
call it cognitive dissonance.
You know what? They just have a different class of rugby and brandy.
Yeah, you know, one supports
the
the Blue Bulls and drinks Wellington, and the other guy drinks KWV and supports the Sharks. You make your choices, you know.
I'm looking at Linda's message as well. She says the average working class person. True, my partner lost his job due to lockdown, so him and I had to move to live with his brother so we could survive. I reiterate a word out of there again. It's exactly what I was saying. If we had to try to go back to South Africa, we'd have to survive. not live. And
Yeah.
it's rather frustrating. You know what? Fortunate if you've got family. I've got no family to live with. If I have to move back there, they'd be reliant on me. I got a mother in an old age home, and they just won't take my application just yet. So I have tried, but um,
Hey,
but
I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you.
but the thing is, yes, you know what? You're starting to end up having families having to move together, people to support each other. It's ridiculous. It's become a survival. And something you pointed out at the beginning, we're becoming so numb and adapting to the system. You know what? Why are we being? It's almost like we're being controlled. And I think this is the whole aim of what the ANC domination going into socialist communism is we want to tell you, and this is why I do believe that, and I'm going on to virus things now, the COVID was great for them because all of a sudden it was Christmas in July. Here's a Christmas present for you. We are able to now dictate how the people must move. We are also able to see how far we can push them, how obedient they will be to us. I'm afraid that you found that the more affluent people were ended up under higher threat and more obedient than the less affluent people. And I'm talking people in general. I'm not talking color now as well. And the fact of the matter that they could push around so much that they could actually dictate to you whether or not you were able to buy cigarettes, whether or not you were able to buy alcohol, where you could go, when you could go, where you could eat, what you could buy, when you could buy it, etc., etc. They still can tell you to be home by 12 tonight.
That's a very interesting point. Two things on that. First of all, I do think that what COVID has showed South Africa is it's a little trial period of communism there.
Exactly.
I do think it might have actually been a good wake up call for a lot of South Africans to actually realize what your liberties and rights are and what it feels like when a totalitarian government starts taking those liberties and freedoms away. If I'm not mistaken, I think that speaks very closely to the definition of Marxism in a country. I mean, somebody shared something on Facebook the other day, like 1984. Would you look at that? 2020, and George Orwell is right. On the one hand, it's incredibly funny because it's so ironic, but on the other hand, it's scary as shit, man. Um, I mean, I think the whole world experienced their liberties being taken away, but is this really what we want? Can you see now how far your government is willing to go for some farts disease that has a kill rate of point zero something? What do you think's going to happen? What do you think your government will do if the cock really hits the fan? That is my question.
I
That
go
is
back
my question.
to Linda's statement earlier on. Somewhere more people died of hunger because of lockdown than they did of the COVID. Yes, the scary part is how easily, and I'm not saying it was without protest and without grumbling and grumping and everything, and people are shouting out on social media, same as what we are, which is important. It's important to put it out to the people there because we've been given the platform to do so. But it is scary how obedient the people have been to that.
Yeah.
So they know.
This is also a very good touching point, especially for my fellow white Christian friends, is the obedience. Where do we draw that line in the Bible between your God says you need to respect your government, but also up till what point do you start grabbing that rope a little bit tighter and not giving more? Are you being disobedient towards what? And this also ties into what I've been thinking about lately. Um, you know, Governments in South Africa trying to make this about a white and a black thing. Um, it's become very prominent and clear to me that, especially our expat community in Cambodia, is where I saw this as an example. Majority of us are white. Majority of us are from the Afrikaans culture or can speak Afrikaans at least. But we have all been silently migrating away to different countries Just the same way we try to avoid confrontation with our government as we did back. You remember with the met die groot trek?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't want to go into all of that. Afrikaners, we just wanted our own piece of land to go prosper on our own. We try to avoid, any form of confrontation or fights about land or anything. That's why the big track, the groot track, that's why it happened. But I see another groot track happening in South Africa with white South Africans too. And if you ask them now versus whether you would ask them back when the groot track happened, why are you moving? It's because I'm trying to get away from that shit. I'm trying to be happy over there. I just want my family to prosper. I don't want to survive. I want to live. Whereas the narrative being spun in South Africa right now is, the white person is at fault for everything. We are this totalitarian, regime that hasn't, the idea of it hasn't gone away for more than 30 years. I mean, come on, if you take a look at what the white South African is actually really doing, what we've been doing in the past and what we're doing now, it doesn't fit in with what they are saying. So
History for pattern, yeah.
I don't know if we'd ever. Andre, do you think the narrative and do you think the narrative would ever be repaired in South Africa at this point in time? Do you think we've gone beyond rectifying what's actually being said and what's true? It's a chilling question to ask.
That's what somebody said the other day. I don't know if it was on one of the streams I was watching, because I don't know, I watch more streams like this these days than what I watch TV, but or if it was on Twitter, because I troll Twitter to try and find content. But anyway, bottom line, to answer your question, is someone said the other day is, we are not going to be able to put a single party that exists in South Africa into power, because they are all, I don't want to say loose cannons, that wasn't the word, I can't remember the word, but none of them are capable. They've all lost sight, as has probably every South African has lost sight of being able to put this thing together. We are so, I don't want to say brainwashed, propagated, or whatever, but we are so, you know what, half is brainwashed to the left, the other half is brainwashed to the right, and the other half is so frustrated with this shit because they're fighting. It's like pissing against a fan, fighting against thunder every single day of your life just to make it through the day. You've got this government that doesn't care about you. You've got the government that doesn't care about its own people, but it's rolling its own people up and telling them it's your fault. And I just stand myself corrected to say that, because I don't mean it's black on white now, but unfortunately the government is making it a race issue. It isn't a race issue. It isn't a culture issue. I do believe the class issue is the paradigm issue, which is the way that people are thinking, but the way that people are thinking are being propagated by the ANC, by the EFF. And you know what? I was very much a DA supporter, and I voted DA all the way through because I believe you must vote. That's something we will talk about as well. But I don't know if these guys have actually got the kudos to pull it off, because they got so much. And I know Ronaldo says, no, we have the plan. We're going to make it. You know what?
Of course he would say that. He's a counselor for the DA, of course. But I've been wondering the same thing.
He is, and he's got a passion for it. And you know what? The only party that's had a lot of rights or got things right so far has been the DA. Unfortunately, they've had like Musimani, who is a total nut job that has gone down the toilet. Thank goodness. I prefer Steenhuisen. I believe the only people that really knew the game was Zilla and Leon, and I think Steenhuisen's got a pretty good handle on it.
It's a good prospect. I definitely have faith in him as prospect, but I don't think he would be able to successfully cope with South Africa being dropped squarely in his lap at this point in time. But I do have hope. I do have hope there.
I think I think we shouldn't say it's on him. It depends on the team he has with him. And you know what I always say, and what I said to you the other day, the DA is the team that has got the most right. They've been able to get things right. But the problem I have is the hot-headedness, the the egos that some of them develop because of that, So yeah, you got it right.
The entitlement. The entitlement is a big issue. I agree with you. Yeah.
You did get it right, and yes, it is to everyone's benefit. But stop being egotistical about it. I'm not saying Steenhuisen, I'm taking him right out of the picture over here. I'm talking about different people in the DA, black and white, by the way. And some are getting so arrogant that they're leaving, and others are getting arrogant and they're growing big heads in the positions that they are. And you know what? Humble yourselves as a team that is achieving, and you might be able to be that team. But right now, as somebody said, it is up for grabs or query that there should somehow become, and as you said, I don't know if it's possible, some savior needs to come up and take over the country and sort it. Can we not just import Trump for president?
Look, Andre, I take very big issue with the mindset of we need a savior, we need somebody to come in and fix this. This almost reminds me. You remember when you were a teenager, and you're lying in your room listening to your music and whatever, and your mom or your dad kicks the door open and they're like, "Maak jou kamer skoon, clean your room." And before you even think you can start back chatting, your dad would very, very quickly say, "Moenie met my kak praat nie, maak dit net skoon. Don't let me come back here." And you clean your room then. They didn't come back there, can't someone just bust into parliament and like, all of you should sit down, shut up, and listen right now. Fix this bullshit, because a lot of people have their lives riding on your decisions. So how's about pull your finger out your ass and start making decisions for somebody other than yourself? As a politician, it's supposed to be your job to make decisions for others instead of just yourself. So that's. I don't think we need a big hero. I think we're going to start seeing change when we start seeing the change in ourselves. I know this sounds like a very, very big cliche, but we need to start getting our own houses in order. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Jordan Peterson, or the best-selling book he's written called 12 Rules for Life, in which he describes how you need to get your own house in order before you can go out of your own house and start changing other things in your own life, in society. Now, obviously, this is a euphemism for, make sure, how do I explain this? Al die balk uit jou eie oog uit voor jy die fout in iemand anders te sien. When everybody starts acting that way, we're going to see stronger South Africans starting to unite more. And this is what scares our government shitless at this point in time. I would have loved to see the expression on the ANC as well as the EFF's faces when they started seeing what the bikers recently did for the farm murders. I didn't expect it to be such a big thing, and I don't think they did either. However, this gave me hope, and this should give a lot of South Africans hope. To emphasize how much power we actually have. I think we as a South African people have forgotten how strong we can be together and what change we can actually implement. I just don't know what the tipping point is going to be. What's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back? Because clearly breaking horses' backs is not going to be that straw. But that's another conversation on its own too, isn't it?
Agreed. You know what? I like that point. I don't know Jordan Peterson at all, but I do know the best-selling book in the world is called The Holy Bible. And there's a dude in there now. You know what? I've had such a bad memory this weekend. I'm really concerned about age, but there's a dude that God sent back to rebuild a city. And I can't remember what his name is, and I can't remember the city and everything. I just know it became a very powerful city there afterwards. And he got back there and he called everyone together and he said, right, this is how we do it. Everybody starts building in front of their own house. And that is how they rebuilt that city. Everybody built their own ground and rebuilt their own land and rebuilt their own wall. And those next to the city wall rebuilt their city wall and everything to that effect. And it was built into the one of the most powerful cities there were. So, yeah, without wanting to Bible bash everyone, that system has worked since the beginning of time, since before the beginning of time. So yes, I agree with you. Once everybody starts pulling their own weight and not pushing their own luck, it reminds me of the story of a little girl who walked onto the beach, and it had, these huge red tides or high tides that wash out everything onto the beach. And it had washed out all these starfish, and there were like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of starfish lying all over the beach. And this little girl picked up a starfish and she threw it back into the water, and she picked up another one and she threw it back into the water. And there was an old man sitting on the bench on the beach, and he looked at her and he says, "Little girl, you can stop doing that now." She says, "It's not going to make a difference." She picked up another starfish and she threw it into the water, and she looked at him. She says, "Made a difference to that one, didn't it?" And the minute we realize that we can make a difference, I think people are expecting huge changes, and they are going to have to. I think what you are saying is that instead of sitting back and waiting for a big bang, when I said we needed a savior, it was like maybe a party or something or whatever to guide us.
Yeah.
But instead of getting a savior, or instead of getting one big bang, we're not going to have a big bang that fixes things. But if we start with small steps, is I think what you were saying, cleaning in front of our own yard first. I don't know if you've noted in Cambodia, being around the teachers and that, they are so fortunate, but they whinge so badly. I've never heard so many people, and not everybody, but certain ones, but many moan and moan and moan and moan. And then it puts me with that saying of "Menio mediciamos."
Exactly, yeah.
So
I find it very unfortunate about teachers, especially abroad, who've lived such incredibly sheltered and privileged lives, are usually the ones who you'd find later on complaining about fucking everything. They turn into Karens, and then you're just like, have you no idea how privileged you actually are? And that is a disgusting one. That tends to piss me off when I see that quite often too. It's like, man, you don't know how much you have to be thankful for. You have not seen what the world's like.
That's the whole thing, and I think we have a similar situation in South Africa where people have unfortunately become so numb that they've learned the nature of complaining. I mean, I take a look at my school, for instance, and through COVID it was bad. They had to close the school, and we had to teach online, and eventually we had to go and work half a day online for half a month's pay.
Yeah.
And oh man, it was terrible. But I tell you what, not a single person in that school lost their job. And then I look at someone like you who just like left with his finger up his ass in the process. And I think to myself, you know what?
Yeah.
You guys are complaining, but that school never left you high and dry. If you needed to renew your visa and you were stuck without it at that time or anything like that, they would have made a plan to actually loan you the money so you weren't left desolate. And not a day has gone by that they haven't been paid on time or before time. But whinge and moan, and all you need to do is work from 8 in the morning or 7:30 to 4:30 and do your job. Whether you have 10 classes or whether you have 2 classes, what's the damn difference if you work from your time started to your time ended? Your public holidays are off, your weekends are off. You have no idea what it is to work all of those times. But I can tell you about somebody that I know that would have given his work a weekend if he could.
Yeah, of course.
To actually have got an income. I know you chewed bricks, and I know you're still chewing a good ton of dynamite in the process there, and I really hope and pray something comes up for you.
We'll get there. We'll soldier through. It's all resolved. We'll get there.
It's true. People don't look ahead and say, you know what, I'm not saying to you it's not so bad, let's sit down and accept it, but I'm saying they should be sitting down and saying, okay, let's stop complaining and start putting one foot in front of the other, because South Africa, I don't believe, is going to be repaired. The way we're talking, and it's just as I'm getting out of it talking, I'm changing my mind as we're talking, by the way. I have the right to do so. But from what we're talking, the vision that I'm getting from what we're saying is that South Africa is not going to be, bam, okay, we've sorted. It's going to be from each person putting one foot in front of the other, and stop standing with their hands in their pocket and their mouths wide open, whether it's to say something or to read or to get food.
to link onto that point, and I know we're running a little bit over right now, but I would like to bring this up, and this might be a
Mm,
point for discussion in the future, especially somebody like myself. For those of you who don't know, I was unemployed from April to around about August.
it's crazy.
Yeah, burned through all of my life savings, had to survive, in a foreign country. However, I, for the first time in my life, seen how South Africans can get together to support one another without any form of government being involved. And Andre, this might be just an opinion, it might be just bias, but I have seen how South Africans can pull together and stand together and help each other out and make sure that we all pull through this thing together. Might be by, I don't know, the hair on our ass, but you get dear salons dear. We'll make sure everybody's okay. I've never seen a community take care of each other like that in the world. Needless to say, an expat community, needless to say, people who I've never met before in my life, but would be there to support me purely because I'm a South African and purely because that's what we do and purely because you need some love and you need some help sometimes. I found that incredibly beautiful and hopeful. And if that comes from a very, very small percentage of our South African population, can you imagine the potential that we have in South Africa itself, where all of us are, if we actually adopt that kind of mindset and pull the same kind of weight for ourselves as well as for our brothers and our sisters next to us? Um, it's a thought. It's a thought. It's something I saw, something I experienced, and call it the grace of God, call it community, call it patriotism, call it taking care of each other. At the end of the day, I saw South Africans pulling together for one another, and it was one of the most incredible things I've seen in my life.
I think that some goosebumps, buddy, goosebumps when you speak like that, because that's where you're looking to head, and as you said, small steps. And I think also that's been one of the biggest complaints, that South Africans don't stand together, and once they do, probably South Africa is probably one of the most resilient nations that you can get because of that. And
I mean, you can do anything, and Nando's is going to make a fucking joke about it. It's the kind of culture we are. We're strong, man. We work through things like that.
But standing together, because I know your situation that you've been through wasn't only financial. I mean, a lot of us burned through savings and things, but we were still pulling in a few cents here and there. I think you just burnt. You didn't burn through anything. You were just burning. And I think I don't think, and yeah, it's possibly another topic for another time as well. But I don't think, just to put it into perspective, it's not just struggling to make ends meet. I think it is the stress, the trauma, the tension, because you're stuck in a country, unable to go back to
and hopelessness.
You're unable to go back to another country. You know what? I think that is very, very mentally challenging as well as physically.
Made me grey.
You're a good man. You also, you're a South African. You laugh in the face of danger.
Ja, zeg God, wat gaan I maak? It's one of those things. It's one of those things I absolutely embrace and love about our culture. And also, once again, not even white, black, it doesn't matter. That's the kind of resolve we have as South Africans. Like, death could stare us in the face, and we would first probably make a joke, make a meme, laugh about it, tell you to fuck off, and if you don't, face the consequences of that. That's the kind of culture I'm proud of. That's the kind of culture I need to see come back, to fight this whole EFF thing, to fight the ANC, to actually, I hate to say make a country for the rest of us to come back to, but some days it actually does feel like that.
It would be nice. I've often said, even if I can't work there right now, if I could save money to buy a place in South Africa and at least go back to retire there. At the moment, you can't even do that because it would be too dangerous to do that.
Yeah.
But I do have some hope, and I hope we can maybe end up with this. I have time if you want to carry on. It's cool, but I do have some hope for you, because I just did a content video for Pepper's Echo called Good Dog Deeds. I think I released it yesterday morning or Friday night, I'm not too sure. But I took off Marula Media, Good Things Guy, I think there was The Voice, and a couple other people reported on it. 5 little black guys. And when I say little, I'm talking about ages like 7 and down type of thing, in Philippi area outside Cape Town. So sort of like a farm area. They stayed on a farm area there somewhere in Philippi, like a little rural outskirt area, whatever, not well off. And they came across a Labrador lying under a bush, left on the side of the road, just to like perish. There we go. It was malnourished. It was tick infested. It was just lying there. I think it was basically going to die under that bush. And these 5 little tykes found this dog, and they decided, no, they got to do something. So they tried to call it. It wouldn't get up. It was just wagged its tail once or twice, but there it lay. So they decided, no, it's not good enough. So 2 stood guard, and 3 went off, and they found a leather belt and a piece of like string or whatever, and they nicely got it put around his neck, gently helped him up. And these guys walked for over 5 Ks with this dog to an animal welfare society in Philippi, which takes care of underprivileged people's animals. They deal with about 4,000 distressed and distraught and deserted animals every month. They walked over 5 Ks through pretty much rough terrain, busy roads, nothing great, never gave up. And they got there, and they were so excited to tell this person about how they need to look after this dog and how they saved this dog. And you know what? Their reward was actually saving an animal, their reward was getting this dog walking 5 Ks, and I'm sure they were barefoot. I don't know if they were barefoot or not. I don't want to exaggerate or, make things look great or whatever, but you will see the picture that I have of them. They're not rich. They don't have well dressed or anything like that. But their little reward for taking this, they were like massively, it was like they'd finished the Comrades Marathon when they did this, apparently. And a week later, they went back to visit this dog again. And, oh man, I've forgotten the place's name now. I needed to name it. I know the one was Regal Pet Foods. The other one was something with a V. I did put it in my video. They donated pet food and dog food and pet treats.
Awesome. That's awesome to hear, man.
For the dog. The Animal Welfare Center had given the kids little hero certificates. Rosemead Spa sponsored them a shopping trolley of shopping each. So the parent could go, the mom could go, and they could pack whatever they wanted into their trolley, all the food and everything to that effect. And they said the nice thing about these kids is no one actually fought with their parent to put in any luxury or candy type thing. They were happy that they were bought food for the family. Tacky Town pulled out and gave them a set of tackies. Needless to say, they were very specific that they wanted Adidas.
Of course, yes. I think they deserve the best pair, man.
And they got them as well, and they got drawing stuff and that. And Pick and Pay gave them clothing and also a little hero certificate. They were dubbed the Magnificent 5, these little guys. And not expected. I mean, this is a week later. They went to visit their pal, Champ. They adopted. They named it. Unfortunately, they can't take him on or anything. None of them are that way financially set or live in a place where they can take on a Labrador. But the Welfare Society said that the dog should be fine in a month's time or so, and that he can be adopted again. But what I'm talking about is the unselfish act of 5 little kids. 5 little kids.
They cared and they did something about it. They cared enough to do something about it.
With a different mindset, which is one thing that you came across and said paradigm. And this is when I don't want to actually class it, but when I say to you, those guys were in a far higher class than what we could expect to be.
Oh, most
because
definitely so.
you know what, it didn't matter to them. It was irrelevant whether they were rewarded or not. Their reward when they came across that winning line was they brought this dog home. You know, it was a success. And if those are what our future leaders are made out of, I have a lot of hope for South Africa. The last one was on a Lieutenant Colonel Brunt. And this is a white police officer. It seems like an older chap, married from the photograph. They didn't put his age there, but he seems to be probably more my age, which isn't old.
Well,
it's
if he's a lieutenant colonel in South Africa, I'd assume he's close to retirement age anyway. You don't find those names young in South Africa anymore.
Yeah, but he's not old. As I say, I'd probably put him in late 40s, 50. But he got a call in Hartbeespoort area, between Hartbeespoort, behind Hartbeespoort High. Someone phoned and said, listen, they're hearing a dog barking all the time. So, and then, you know what, without someone saying to me, listen, but shouldn't he be catching criminals, whatever, he took the call, and after work, the time when he should be going home to his family. And that wasn't written down. This is what I'm telling you now, is if he went there after work, which it does state, after work he went to go and take a look. And he walked about a kilometer up into the mountain, where he also found a dog with it gone into a wire trap, animal trap, and had been left and stuck there for 2 days, and ended up carrying that dog down, reuniting it with the owner through social media, etc., etc. And the owner had said this dog's been missing for over 2 days, and see, it's been stuck for 2 days with this wire around its neck. You know, these are kind of unsung heroes, and the people that we're talking about, these are the people that are making small steps in our country. 5 little black boys and 1 police lieutenant colonel that has just, you know what, unselfishly made a difference, and not stood on a podium and went, it's because Van Riebeeck gave me the right, or Van Riebeeck didn't do this, the apartheid did this. They did it because it was the right thing to do. The little guy was actually asked, one of the little black guys was actually asked, said to him, Boetie, why did you save the dog? And he says, well, dogs protect us, we should protect them. And I think it's such a cliche to our country. If our country loves us and looks after us, why don't we love our country and look after it?
That's a very, very good point, man, Andre. And I think that you have to be in such an elevated state of being, to do something so selfless that you really don't care about what you get in reward for that. Is you honestly just being selfless. And I've always been a very big advocate, obviously, of you can judge somebody's character based on the way they treat animals when nobody's looking. And these are the kinds of people. I think it speaks volumes of your character how you deal with animals, and I'm not talking about your own dog. I'm talking about animals in general, animals in your environment, and the way you treat them speaks volumes of your character. And those are the kinds of people that generally also turn out to be good leaders. These are the kinds of people like these youngsters that they don't care about taking any risks to actually save an animal like that. These are kinds of people that we need more of in South Africa. Who's not scared to actually show that I care about something and would do something selfless for somebody else. I think that's South Africa needs a lot more of that right now.
Wasn't it Gandhi who said, if you want to know what a person's like, take a look at how he treats his animals, or something like that? Something similar. I'm not quite a guy, but look how he treats something else, and then you'll know what he's like. And as you said, you know what? If that's what they treat animals like, I'm sure the way they treat their fellow man will be with as much, if not more, respect. And that's why I did the show or the stream on it, because I just felt, you know what, Pepper's Echo just started up, and the first thing was politic that. Blammo, 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 blammo. And the last thing was this Fairview horse thing. And I thought, oh man, everything is just crazy. It's depressing. It's whatever. Let me find something. And this thing stuck in my head, because it just stuck in my head, these little guys. And I thought, let me just actually put something good out of there. And you know what, if we're looking at our country not doing too well, I think those little guys are proof that we have hope.
It's sometimes important though, Andre, to celebrate these small things because we don't have a lot of
Mainstream
hope
media.
to cling on in the first place. Mainstream media is playing only on politics and race. It's sometimes a really good thing to be introspective and take a look at who we are as a culture, what we do, what forms part of our identity. Obviously, being South African, it's sort of expected of you that you have a great love and respect for animals, and that's something that is a genuine mark of a person's character, of how good of a person you are, if I can use that as a litmus test. I'm sorry, a lot of people
Hmm.
might disagree, but I do think so. And it's important that we embrace these little acts of resolve, of selflessness. It might seem zoetsappig to a lot of people, but I do think it's really, really important that we do celebrate these small victories.
No, agreed, 100%. It's you know what? It's heart wrenching because I sort of sat there and I went, I'll do the stream and to shoot.
Who's cutting onions? Don't take away my
Restart,
man card. That is not a steer. How dare you?
restart the stream again. You know,
Uh,
good evening. This is Michael De Morgan, and three little fuckers picked up the dog the other day. No, can't do that.
at the
I
end,
actually,
you could be
it
telling
was,
this incredible stories like Akbar Busak, Saika, you honest,
yeah.
full emotion, bro. It's Sunday night news. Yeah.
Uh, well, my friend, I think we've basically
Man.
wrapped it up. That it's not. It's not. What
Not a
should I
race
say?
issue.
It's not a race issue. I don't think it's even culture, and I don't think it's even class. Really, I think we've come to the fact that it is pure choice of people. That it's choices we make in circumstances, and circumstances are created by, sadly, a leading party that needs to be removed, who's been given far too much power and far too much reign and far too much lead. And these circumstances have created people to make different choices, and some choices have not been as amicable as what they should be.
This is
It's
true,
given,
man. We need to make better choices as South Africans too. We need to make more informed and responsible choices when we actually go to vote. It's very important as other South Africans there out there. It's sometimes important to ask, who is going to actually attack you? Which mob is going to attack you when you criticize who? I can almost guarantee you the most criticism you would face in South Africa right now would happen to you when you are doing the most noblest of acts and sharing the best of information for a prosperous future. That should indicate, a problem in our thinking as South Africans. So I would urge South Africans to end off to just think a little bit more responsibly, think a little bit more logically, whether it be how you act towards a different culture, a different person, how you vote, how you perceive your government, and how you perceive your neighbor, your fellow man.
mhm.
I think these are things that we do need to rethink. Um, and if we do that, I think we've already won quite a lot of the wars and battles we have in front of us. But Andre, thank you so much for having me on. It was fantastic talking to you. Um,
I am
never a dull moment when Andre and Nelius get together have a beer and have a conversation, isn't there?
a match made in heaven, dude. I look
Yeah.
forward to many, many, many more successful streams with you. I think this wouldn't be as successful without you, as successful as it is. It's a click that's made somehow, some way, and I think it's needed for out there. Where's Linda says, thanks for an amazing stream. Thanks for being an amazing
Thank you so
supporter.
much.
Always there. Hopefully, we'll have more people together. Hopefully, more people get to see the stream as well. Nelius, you know what? As I said, it would not be success without you as well. I look forward to seeing you every Sunday now. So
I appreciate that.
we
I
can't
think
go
I
to
think I think we can make this a regular thing. I,
I think
I,
we'll
I
have a
kind
lot
of
of
I
fun.
kind of enjoy sitting and drinking beer and talking cock on the
Well,
internet with you,
this
man.
is it. You know what you'll see? I'm busy vaping
Yeah,
away. I'm not trying to set a precedence or anything. It is a lack of conversation. That's all we need to
yeah.
have. And I think, you know what, as you said, we will even pick up flack from people, sadly. It doesn't matter black or white. You're going to pick up flack for this conversation. It is what it is. You know what, we've done the best that we can.
Can't please them all, man. Can't please them all.
I think we've come to what we can. And I want to end off with our good friend and supporter who's been a solid supporter of Echo's, Pepper's Echo since day one when it started. And it's pretty new. It started, what, 3-4 weeks ago. Is Devon, and he's actually been doing all the referencing for us. And Gandhi's basically, he's looked up the proper quote. In his total commitment to non-violence, Gandhi included the animals, stating, "The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated." Akun Sharan.
Spoken like a king.
Indeed. Thanks, Devon. Guys, take care. We shall see you 2 o'clock on Sunday, South African time, and 7 o'clock Cambodian time from Nelius and myself. Be good. Take care. And if you can't be good,
thank you
be
so
kind.
much.